What happens when your greatest strength becomes the very thing that destroys you? Today I want to share with you the profound story of Minamoto no Yoshitsune, a Japanese warrior philosopher whose tragic fate reveals one of the most important lessons about genius, timing, and the dangerous price of being too far ahead of your time. This is not just a historical tale, but a mirror that reflects the struggle every visionary faces when they dare to see what others cannot yet comprehend. If you have ever felt misunderstood for your ideas, isolated because of your vision, or punished for thinking differently, then Yoshitsune's story will speak directly to your soul and teach you how to navigate the treacherous waters of being exceptional in a world that fears what it cannot understand. Throughout history, there have been individuals whose minds operated on frequencies that their contemporaries could not tune into. People whose insights were so advanced that they seemed to come from another dimension of consciousness entirely. Yoshitsune was one of these rare beings, a man whose strategic brilliance was so far ahead of his time that it took centuries for military theorists to fully appreciate the revolutionary nature of his innovations. Before we dive deep into this transformative wisdom, I need you to do something that will change how this knowledge reaches you. Hit that like button right now, subscribe to this channel, and most importantly, tell me in the comments which aspect of dealing with being ahead of your time resonates most with your personal experience. Do you struggle with being misunderstood, with timing your innovations, or with the loneliness that comes with visionary thinking? Your engagement helps this message reach others who desperately need to hear it, and together we can build a community of people who refuse to dim their light just to fit in. The algorithm rewards engagement, but more importantly, your participation creates ripples that reach others who are struggling with the same challenges you face. Every like, every comment, every subscription tells the universe that this message matters, that visionary thinking deserves a platform, and that people like you and me refuse to hide our gifts simply because others are not yet ready to receive them. Now, let me tell you about a man whose brilliance was so intense it burned not only his enemies but ultimately himself, and how his story contains the keys to avoiding his tragic fate while still honoring the visionary fire that burns within you. Picture this. The year is 1189, and in the mountainous regions of feudal Japan, a young warrior named Yoshitsune is revolutionizing military strategy in ways that would not be fully understood or appreciated until centuries later. While his contemporaries fought with traditional honor codes and predictable battle formations, Yoshitsune was implementing psychological warfare, unconventional tactics, and strategic innovations that seemed to come from a mind that belonged to a different era entirely. He understood that true victory came not from strength alone, but from the ability to think beyond the limitations that trapped other minds. He saw patterns where others saw chaos, opportunities where others saw only obstacles, and possibilities where others saw only tradition. His famous victory at the Battle of Ichi-no-Tani was not achieved through superior numbers or weapons, but through a tactical innovation so audacious that it shocked both allies and enemies. He led his cavalry down an impossibly steep cliff face, attacking from an angle that his opponents had deemed impossible, transforming what they considered an insurmountable natural barrier into his greatest strategic advantage. But here lies the first tragic irony of genius. The very qualities that made him extraordinary also made him incredibly dangerous to those around him, including his own brother Yoritomo, who ultimately ordered his death not because Yoshitsune was ineffective, but because he was too effective, too unpredictable, too far beyond conventional understanding. Yoshitsune's story teaches us what I call the visionary's paradox, a philosophical principle that explains why those who can see furthest often fall the hardest. When you possess insights that are 500 years ahead of your time, you face three fundamental challenges that can either elevate you to greatness or destroy you completely. First, the challenge of translation. How do you communicate revolutionary ideas to minds that are not yet ready to receive them? Yoshitsune could envision battle strategies that incorporated multiple variables and contingencies, but he struggled to explain his reasoning to generals who thought only in terms of direct confrontation. Second, the challenge of timing. How do you implement innovations in a world that is structurally unprepared for such advancement? His psychological warfare techniques were so sophisticated that they seemed almost supernatural to his contemporaries, creating fear even among his allies who began to question whether his victories came from divine inspiration or demonic influence. And third, the challenge of trust. How do you maintain relationships when your thinking patterns are so different that others begin to see you as either divine or demonic, but never simply human? The more brilliant Yoshitsune's strategies became, the more isolated he became from the very people he was trying to serve, until his genius became a prison that separated him from authentic human connection. Let me share with you a modern parallel that will make this ancient wisdom immediately relevant to your life. Consider Sarah, a technology executive who in 2010 proposed that her company should focus entirely on mobile-first design and artificial intelligence integration. Her colleagues laughed at what they considered impractical fantasies. Her superiors dismissed her as unfocused, and her team began to question her judgment. Like Yoshitsune, Sarah could see patterns that others could not yet perceive. She understood that the future was already present, waiting to be recognized and embraced. She envisioned a world where artificial intelligence would not replace human creativity, but amplify it, where mobile devices would become the primary interface for all digital interaction, where data analytics would reveal insights that could transform entire industries. But also, like Yoshitsune, she faced the devastating loneliness that comes with being the only person in the room who can see what everyone else is blind to. The question that haunted both Sarah and Yoshitsune is the same question that might be haunting you right now. Should you compromise your vision to maintain acceptance? Or should you stand firm in your truth even if it means standing alone? Sarah eventually learned from Yoshitsune's mistakes by developing what she called future backward thinking, starting with where she wanted to be in 10 years, and then creating incremental steps that would lead her team gradually toward that vision without overwhelming them with the full scope of transformation required. This is where Yoshitsune's philosophy becomes deeply personal and immediately practical. He believed in what we can call authentic timing, the principle that true visionaries must learn to balance their advanced thinking with strategic patience. Yoshitsune understood that being right too early is often indistinguishable from being wrong, and that the greatest ideas can become the greatest failures if they are not introduced with wisdom and careful consideration of human psychology. He developed 3 practical strategies that any modern visionary can apply immediately in their personal life, relationships, and career. These strategies were born from his own painful experiences of watching brilliant innovations fail, not because they lacked merit, but because they were introduced at the wrong time or in the wrong way to people who were not psychologically prepared to receive them. The first strategy involves understanding that resistance to new ideas is not personal. It is biological and psychological, rooted in survival mechanisms that helped our ancestors survive by being suspicious of anything unfamiliar. The second strategy focuses on creating safe spaces for experimentation, where new ideas can be tested and refined without the pressure of immediate judgment or implementation. The third strategy emphasizes the importance of building bridges between current reality and future possibility, helping others see the logical progression from where they are now to where your vision could take them. In your personal life, practice what Yoshitsune called gradual revelation. Instead of overwhelming people with the full scope of your vision, introduce revolutionary ideas in digestible portions that allow others to gradually expand their capacity for understanding. When you see solutions to problems that others have not yet recognized as problems, resist the urge to force immediate acknowledgement. Instead, plant seeds of awareness that will grow naturally as circumstances make your insights more obviously valuable. This approach protects you from the isolation that destroyed Yoshitsune, while still honoring the integrity of your vision. For example, if you have insights about how artificial intelligence will transform education, do not start by explaining the complete technological revolution you envision. Instead, begin by sharing small observations about how current educational methods could be improved. Then gradually introduce more advanced concepts as your audience becomes more receptive. Yoshitsune learned this lesson too late when he tried to implement complete strategic overhauls without first helping his commanders understand the underlying principles that made these strategies effective. The key is to respect the natural pace at which human consciousness evolves, while still maintaining your commitment to the transformational vision that guides your actions. In your relationships, apply the principle of compassionate translation. Yoshitsune's greatest mistake was assuming that his brilliance would automatically be appreciated by those he served. He failed to recognize that people need to feel safe before they can feel inspired, and that revolutionary thinking can trigger fear responses that have nothing to do with the quality of the ideas themselves. When sharing visionary concepts with friends, family, or colleagues, always begin by acknowledging their current perspective and validating their existing concerns. Only then can you gently guide them toward expanded possibilities without triggering their psychological defenses. This means learning to speak multiple languages: the language of innovation for fellow visionaries, the language of practical benefit for pragmatists, the language of security for those who fear change, and the language of possibility for those who are ready to dream bigger. Yoshitsune eventually realized that his brother's fear of his innovations came not from jealousy, but from a genuine concern about the political implications of strategies that seemed to operate outside conventional frameworks of honor and tradition. Had he understood this earlier and found ways to address these underlying concerns while still pursuing his revolutionary approaches, the tragic conflict between them might have been avoided. In your professional environment, implement what Yoshitsune learned too late: the strategy of collaborative innovation. Instead of positioning yourself as the sole source of revolutionary thinking, become a facilitator who helps others discover advanced concepts as if they were reaching these conclusions naturally. This approach allows you to maintain your visionary edge while building the political alliances necessary to actually implement your ideas. Yoshitsune's fatal flaw was believing that brilliant strategy alone would be sufficient. He underestimated the importance of making others feel involved in the creative process, rather than simply overwhelmed by his superiority. Create opportunities for team members to contribute to the development of innovative solutions, even if you can see the final answer more clearly than they can. Guide conversations in ways that help others arrive at insights that support your broader vision, but allow them to feel ownership of the discovery process. This collaborative approach not only protects you from the political dangers that destroyed Yoshitsune, but it also improves the quality of your innovations by incorporating diverse perspectives that you might not have considered independently. But here is where Yoshitsune's story takes a turn that will challenge everything you think you know about success and failure. Despite his eventual political downfall and tragic death, his innovative military strategies were studied and refined by future generations, ultimately influencing Japanese warfare for centuries. His apparent failure was actually a delayed victory, a contribution that transcended his own lifetime and transformed entire civilizations. This reveals what might be the most important lesson for any modern visionary. True impact is measured not in immediate recognition, but in long-term transformation. Yoshitsune's influence can be seen in the development of samurai philosophy, in the evolution of martial arts, in the strategic thinking that helped Japan navigate complex political and military challenges for generations after his death. His innovations became so integrated into military culture that they were eventually considered traditional approaches, which is perhaps the ultimate validation of truly revolutionary thinking. When your ideas become so accepted that people forget they were once radical innovations, you have achieved the deepest form of success. You have changed the fundamental assumptions that guide human behavior. I want you to pause right now and really consider this question. How many times have you allowed the fear of being misunderstood to prevent you from sharing your most innovative ideas? How often have you dimmed your natural brilliance because you were afraid of the isolation that comes with thinking differently? If you are nodding your head right now, if you feel that familiar ache of recognition, then you understand exactly why Yoshitsune's philosophy is not just ancient history, but urgent, modern wisdom. The pain of being ahead of your time is real and deep, but it is also the price of admission to a very exclusive community. The community of people who shape the future rather than simply responding to it. Comment below and tell me. I see patterns others miss. If you have ever felt the burden of seeing solutions that others cannot yet comprehend, do not worry about sounding arrogant or different. This is a safe space for visionaries who are tired of pretending to be smaller than they are. Your comment not only helps you connect with others who understand your struggle, but it also helps the algorithm show this message to more people who desperately need to hear that they are not alone in their advanced thinking. Yoshitsune's approach to handling the psychological pressure of advanced thinking offers 3 levels of practical application that you can implement starting today. On the personal level, he practiced what I call solitary cultivation, the discipline of continuously developing your visionary capacity, even when external validation is absent. This means reading extensively, thinking deeply, and maintaining your intellectual edge regardless of whether others appreciate your efforts. Yoshitsune spent hours studying military history, analyzing successful and failed strategies, and developing mental models that allowed him to see patterns invisible to his contemporaries. He understood that true mastery requires consistent practice even when no one is watching, especially when no one is watching. You can apply this same principle by dedicating time each day to expanding your knowledge base, questioning conventional wisdom, and developing the analytical skills that will serve you when opportunities for innovation arise. Create a personal learning system that challenges you to think beyond current limitations, whether through reading cutting-edge research, engaging with ideas from multiple disciplines, or developing scenarios that require you to synthesize information in novel ways. The goal is not just to accumulate information, but to develop the mental flexibility and pattern recognition abilities that characterize truly innovative thinking. On the relational level, Yoshitsune eventually learned the importance of building what we can call wisdom alliances, relationships with other advanced thinkers who could appreciate and refine his innovative concepts. He discovered that isolation was not the inevitable price of brilliance, but rather the result of trying to exist entirely within conventional social structures. Modern visionaries need to actively seek out communities of fellow innovators, whether through professional networks, online forums, or intellectual societies where advanced thinking is celebrated rather than feared. These connections provide both emotional support and practical feedback that can help you avoid Yoshitsune's mistakes while still honoring your visionary nature. Look for people who ask questions you have never considered, who challenge your assumptions in constructive ways, who push you to think even more deeply about problems you thought you had already solved. These relationships are not just personally satisfying, they are professionally essential for anyone who wants to implement transformational ideas in a world that is naturally resistant to change. On the professional level, he developed the strategy of legacy building, focusing not just on immediate implementation of his ideas, but on creating systems and precedents that would outlast his own career. Yoshitsune began documenting his strategies, training selected disciples, and establishing institutional frameworks that could preserve and transmit his innovations, even if he himself faced political difficulties. This long-term perspective allowed him to maintain motivation and purpose, even when short-term recognition was lacking. You can apply this principle by creating content that captures your innovative thinking, mentoring others who show similar visionary potential, and building projects that will continue generating value long after your direct involvement ends. Think about how your ideas could be structured to survive and thrive, even if you are not personally present to champion them. This might involve writing books or articles, creating educational programs, developing organizational cultures, or designing systems that embody your innovative principles in ways that others can understand and implement. The most profound aspect of Yoshitsune's philosophy concerns what he called the sacred responsibility of the visionary. He believed that those who can see further have an obligation to persist despite misunderstanding, to continue innovating despite rejection, and to maintain their authentic perspective despite pressure to conform. This is not about arrogance or superiority. It is about recognizing that visionary thinking is a rare gift that carries with it the responsibility to serve humanity's long-term evolution. When you can see solutions to problems that others have not yet recognized, when you can envision possibilities that expand human potential, when you can create innovations that improve life for future generations, then you have a moral duty to persist in developing and sharing these gifts regardless of immediate reception. Yoshitsune understood that his strategic innovations were not just tools for winning battles, but contributions to the evolution of human strategic thinking that would serve countless future generations. This perspective transformed his personal struggles into a sacred mission that gave meaning to his sacrifices and purpose to his persistence. But Yoshitsune also understood the importance of what I call sustainable heroism, the recognition that visionaries must preserve their own well-being in order to serve their higher purpose effectively. His tragedy was not that he was too advanced for his time, but that he failed to develop the emotional resilience and political wisdom necessary to survive long enough to see his vision fully implemented. Modern visionaries can learn from his mistake by prioritizing self-care, building support systems, and developing the patience necessary for long-term impact. This means recognizing that your ideas will often be rejected initially not because they lack value, but because the world needs time to develop the capacity to receive them. Create practices that maintain your emotional stability during periods of misunderstanding. Develop financial strategies that allow you to pursue long-term projects without immediate returns. And build relationships that provide encouragement when external validation is lacking. If Yoshitsune's story resonates with you, if you recognize yourself in the struggle of being ahead of your time, then you are part of a special community of people who carry within themselves the seeds of humanity's future. This is not about ego or superiority. It is about recognizing a particular type of gift that comes with particular types of challenges and responsibilities. Your task is not to diminish yourself to match others' capacity for understanding, but rather to develop the wisdom and patience necessary to guide others toward expanded possibilities without triggering their fears or defenses. The world needs your vision, but it needs your vision expressed through wisdom rather than frustration, through love rather than superiority, through patience rather than force. Yoshitsune's greatest lesson is that being right is not enough. Being wise about how you share your rightness is what determines whether your vision transforms the world or simply burns within you unexpressed. So here is what I want you to do right now. And this is important for both your personal growth and for everyone else who needs to hear this message. Subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because we are building something special here. A community where visionary thinking is celebrated, where being ahead of your time is seen as a gift rather than a burden, where people like you can find the support and wisdom necessary to express their authentic brilliance without sacrificing their emotional well-being. And in the comments, complete this sentence. My vision for the future includes, and share one idea that you have been hesitant to express because you were not sure others would understand. Do not worry about being perfect or complete. Just share enough to connect with others who might be working on similar innovations. Remember, Yoshitsune's greatest regret was not his advanced thinking, but his failure to build the community that could have supported and refined his vision. Do not let that be your story too. Together, we can create the wisdom alliances that will allow all of us to honor our visionary gifts while building the patient, strategic approaches that will actually transform the world.